Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and To Back or Not To Back is, well, back. Next week it looks like we'll have one as well, just looking at the Kickstarter lineup. It's going to be a busy few weeks, it seems. August is going to be tough. I just recently did my Kickstarters coming up in August video. Lots of fun things to be paying attention to, and that's with me missing some, plus of course the ones that will always come up throughout the month. But to begin with, this is going to be a longer episode, I imagine, because I'm covering everything from this week, everything from last week. We have Kickstarter adjacent, we have not funding, we have things I missed, updates, we have all the new stuff, lots of stuff to go over, and it is currently, at least in my neck of the woods, it's currently thunderstorming pretty badly, like very, very, very badly, which means if I get a power outage, this video may be split up into two parts, assuming my software actually saves what I'm doing, which in hindsight, I'm not sure it does. So there might be a take two of this, yay, or power outages. Either way, let's go ahead and jump into it, starting off with the Going Analog quiz show. So I talked about them already, in the past we've talked about them. I've also talked about them Saturday and in the week in review. Basically, I was finally on the quiz show. They do a quiz show. They're 2 seasons in. They basically just pick a person in the board game space. They talk about various things in terms of they usually cater the quiz show a bit to that person and overlap with what they do, what their interests are, what they've designed, things like that. And if you're watching this video, you probably know Kickstarter to a degree, which is why I would encourage you to watch the one we just had with me because, well, I'm blocking myself a little bit over there, because this one is going to be a Kickstarter focused one. In general, across the Going Analog quiz show, the current top score is 17 points, 17 out of 20. So go ahead and check them out, see if you can like, for each one of these shows, play along with it, try to see what you can do, and if you do beat a 17 out of 20 on any of them, well, let me know in the comments down below, because I just haven't seen it happen yet. Moving on, we have the Lost Code. So this is going to be starting off with 2 Kickstarters not currently funding. We have the Lost Code. It's going to be a deduction game, which is going to be, this is a remake of like Think Straight, something like that. It's going to be a game where you're trying to figure out what you have, similar to games like Hanabi, similar to games like Letter Jam. This is a game where you're going to have numbers in front of you. You don't know what those numbers are, but you're making a guess as to what they have. You're going to roll dice every round, and you're going to assign, those dice are going to have different colors, and you're trying to guess the range of those colors. So maybe you roll a red, and blue, and you're saying maybe it's between this range and that range. Well, looking at this person over here, their red, green, and blue would be 14 points. They would have 14 points in those. So you might say, oh, it's between, I don't know, 10 and 12, or whatever it is you might do, and you might be right, you might be wrong. And slowly throughout the process of the game, you're trying to figure out what your numbers are and guess accurately about the ranges of your numbers in terms of trying to get the most points for guessing accurately as you wind along this path. It's going to be a bit of a, like I said already, it's a remake of Think Straight. It's not currently funding. I'm not diving heavily into the value proposition here. They have a bunch of stuff in terms of, if you look at there's a retail pledge over here for $40, but it does come with their all unlocked stretch goals, no add-ons, anything else. There are going to be separate add-ons you can buy. If you scroll down over here, there is going to be, let's see what we have. We have the Kickstarter edition, which has a few extras. So we have the Deadly Shortcut expansion, the Curse of the Temple, and custom pencils, which is, honestly, it's weird. I'm starting to notice that more and more new roll and writes don't have pencils in them. We've made progress in the board game space. Games now include plastic bags, and they don't need to. And now we're taking a step back where roll and writes are like, supply your own pencil. I got pencils, I'm fine. I just find the addition of plastic bags and the removal of pencils an interesting dichotomy. And then we have add-ons over here. So we have additional stones for the more difficult guessing game. We have the Mojito Studios mat, and that's what we have so far for the Lost Code. Moving on, we have Not Enough Mana. This is coming to you from the same studio that did Superhot. Like, you know, Superhot, the famous game, the VR game, the card game, the Steam game. All things Superhot. Superhot is to date one of my favorite VR games that I've ever played. Does it so well. It feels like a game that was designed for VR, even though it wasn't. VR, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, is virtual reality. But anyways, we have Not Enough Mana, which is going to be it seems to be a drinking game. By all accounts, everything I'm seeing here seems to be a drinking game. It's a potion drinking card game for 3 to 6 fearless wizards. Legal potion drinking age may vary. So that seems to imply it's a drinking game, and the basic idea of the game is that you have to generate mana in this game. So you're going to drink, which will generate mana. Whenever you take a shot, or whatever the beverage or rules you have around the table, you then generate that much mana, which can be used to power spells. So you're trying to power spells to attack each other, but it basically involves taking a shot as you do so. So for those who are into drinking games, I am not, to be very clear, but for those who are into drinking games, the concept is I mean, it's simple and brilliant. drink and then generate mana, and eventually someone's going to collapse at the table or not be able to drink anymore, or someone's going to die because you actually killed them through the use of your spells. Very interesting concept over here. Again, I think that for those who enjoy drinking games, this seems like an interesting seems like a fun experience. For myself, I have no appreciation for drinking games. When you offer me a beer, I'll take half of it. I'm not a big drinker, unless of course we're talking about coffee, and there's no way. That'd be an interesting game. How much coffee am I willing to drink to cast enough spells at you? Not enough. I think the answer is not enough, because I mean, I'd be buzzed. I'd be completely buzzed. So yeah, let's not play that game instead. But anyways, that's going to be, so this is going to be from the creators of Superhot. They have a few pledge levels. They have a deluxe option. They have the standard edition for €23. They have the Not Enough Mana standard edition, the Not Enough Mana Archmage edition for €39, bringing you more deluxification. They have shot glasses. They have all these extra things, the red crystals, all this stuff over there as far as the game. This one's not funding yet. I imagine it will fund, based on being 2 days in and halfway past the goal, more than halfway. So I imagine it will fund. We'll see how that goes. Moving on, we have two that I completely missed. The nature of skipping a week on To Back or Not To Back is any Kickstarter campaign or Game Final campaign that is under a 2-week window, I can potentially miss. If I, have mine on Monday and a Kickstarter goes up on Tuesday, which is common, and then it ends in under 14 days, I won't have a chance to really cover it before it's over. And that happened for both Animal Adventures: The Faraway Sea, as well as Hero Realms Digital. So, Animal Adventures: The Faraway Sea, still covering it because they do have a late pledge, but this is going to be a game that is, it's a RPG game. This is going to be from the same company that brought you the previous, they have a bunch of things. Let me go ahead and click through to it. But they have a bunch of games. Why can I not find because it's over here when you do it that way. Let's go to For Created. So they have the Tales of Cats and Catacombs. They have Dungeons and Doggies. Let's go ahead and just look through those, because this little, Animal Adventures universe is delightful. Just in terms of just looking at the miniatures. I'm not really looking at much else. I'm just scrolling through the miniatures. Look at this little host of adorable little cats. If you thought those Nemesis space cats were enough, here's some more cats for your, heart's content. And we have the same thing with dogs as well. A set of dogs. We have the Dungeons and Doggies, these set of dogs over here. And now we have the Animal Adventures, which by far seem to be the best of the lot. This is going to be, like I said already, it's going to be an RPG setting, a universe where the focus is on your animal companions and it's not on yourself. We have this little Kraken Kickstarter exclusive. I mean, this thing did well. How much did we got? 700,000 in this one? We have £543,000. That is not a small amount of money for this game. It does significantly better than many Kickstarters out there, which goes to show the RPG universe combined a following and the RPG universe. There's a lot to go on here. But look at the miniatures here. These are going to be miniatures from Steamforged Games, and they look amazing. Some of these things are, looking through the sets over here. Let's see if we can scroll down. And to be warned, there is a late pledge here, which is why I'm showing you. But there's a lot of optional buys here. There's a lot of ways to spend money on this campaign if you so choose. We have the cats of the Faraway Sea, the animals. We have the dogs of the Faraway Sea, the Kickstarter exclusive Baby Kraken. What else do we have? We have the Goat Paladin. We have the Baby Druid Goat. We have Alpaca. I mean, look at this. The orangutan, the pig. We have the dogs. Lots of adorable little animals. And if you're wondering why I'm focusing on the animals and not the RPG, it's because I'm not an RPG person. I don't know much about it, nor do I follow it heavily. Oh, look at those walruses. That's ridiculous and adorable. We have the bears, the raccoons, all those things over here for the Animal Adventures. Basically, just tons more stuff over there. And then next up in the not funding category, we have Hero Realms Digital. Not funding. I said that poorly. In the What I Missed category, we have the Hero Realms Digital Deck Building. This is going to be available on their website. I'll throw a link down below, but on their website directly, you'll have an opportunity to late pledge for this when it goes up. I believe it's only going to be for the hero tier though. So they had 2 tiers for this campaign. The hero tier, which gives you access to the game, as well as $30 of worth of gems in game. So you get a bunch of content there. If you were someone who was going to get the game, then this is a good chance to jump in on it. If you are going to pass on it, I mean, it's $25. You choose whether it's worth it to you or not. Past that, they have the $99 Legend account, which gives you everything that ever gets unlocked, a whole bunch of packs, the clerics, the fighter, all the stuff for the game that will ever be and all that for the game. But that is, like I said already, not currently available. We have the hero tier only is what's going to be available for the late pledge option. Now, Hero Realms, if you're not familiar, is going to be the newer version of Star Realms, sort of. So Wise Wizard Games, they came out with Star Realms, then they came out with Hero Realms. They have a bunch of other games as well. They recently had Robot Quest Arena, but Star Realms, their digital app adaptation is one of the apps that people rave about, that people love to play. I haven't played it in a few years, but when I did play it, it was amazing. It's one of the reasons that made it easier to get rid of Star Realms, because I always have the app. I can always jump in there. And Hero Realms is bringing you, more of the same, and of course it comes with Jeremy Howard, and that just makes it an instant win for me. But yeah, this is going to be Hero Realms. It's going to give you that same gameplay genre. If If you like one, you'll probably like the other. If you don't like one, you probably won't like the other. You may have a preference in small, nuanced gameplay differences and or theme, but past that, they're both good games, and if Star Realms is anything to go by, it'll be a solid digital adaptation from there. And now we're going to move on to updates, but first, I will take a drink. So, for updates. Updates, we have 3 updates so far. 3 updates in which we'll mostly just be going over stretch goals. We have Volfyirion Guilds, which will be ending in 4 days. Volfyirion Guilds is going to be giving you, let's go through the stretch goals, really just more cards. Honestly, you can skip to the next timestamp. There's always timestamps in case you're wondering. But timestamps, you can skip directly to the next timestamp because I'm just going to go over stuff like saying cards, 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 as soon as I actually get to, geez, how much stuff do they have for this? Okay. Nope, that's not the stretch goals either. That's going to be add-ons. Just tons and tons of content. Let's see if I can eventually make my way to stretch goals. Here we go. So, unlock stretch goals. We have cards, like I said already. We have extra mode, a free-for-all. We have additional cards. We have more symmetric rules. Universal box and grave tray. We have additional agent cards, troop cards. We have more troop cards, box upgrade, inner artwork, if you care about that. I mean, it's nice. I'll take it. We have troop cards. We have agent cards. We have agent cards, building cards, arbiter cards, arbiter cards. We have arbiter cards. Building cards, command cards, just more and more cards. I'm just going to keep scrolling through it. We have a new Arbiter expansion box containing all the unlocked cards. So they basically unlocked an expansion through all the stretch goals. We have more Wonder cards, and then we have August 2nd is going to be the newest update. At 5 p.m. CST, we're going to have something. I don't know what exactly, but something on August 2nd will happen before this campaign ends. So stay tuned for that because something special this way comes. But overall, my opinion of Volfyirion Guilds, as a quick update from when I talked about it 2 weeks ago, is, I mean, similar to Hero Realms, which we just talked about, or Star Realms. It's going to be one of those large deck building games where I'm not confident it will hold its value if you're trying to sell it on the secondhand market, but if you are interested in the game, this is going to be the easiest and quickest way to jump in and get everything you want for a not unreasonable price point on the game. Trying to get this, you can easily get the base game later at retail for cheaper and you'll be fine, but you're going to want to get, well, I shouldn't say you're going to, you may want to get all the content, and if you want to get all the content, this is going to be the fastest, easiest way to just have everything in one place without having to track it down. So as a game you're interested in, I would recommend the Kickstarter. As a game that will hold its value, I don't think it will. I don't think it'll lose that much, but I'm skeptical that it'll hold its value fully. Moving on, we have Soul Raiders. Again, more updates here. Ending in 5 days, Soul Raiders just has more updates from what we've seen already, and just a lot of stuff to go over. Let's try to scroll down through that. Let's see if we can get to the stretch goals faster without, triggering anyone's... Oh, this is an update. I should be really switching to full... You know what? Let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to switch to the full screen while I do this. And here we go. So, we have 50k. You did it. It's funded. We have new heroic action cards, new potions, new improved card quality, new heroic action cards, new potions, the complete prologue. So this was actually a big one. This is where they unlocked the prologue that was sent to previewers and it's now as part of your pledge, which I think is great because I can't speak for the actual game, but I can tell you that the prologue did a great job guiding us through learning the game. Now, it didn't do a great job giving me a feel for how can I rate this game. I rated this game as a... I don't know. It could be a 3 out of 5. It could be a 4 out of 5. It's not going to be a 5 out of 5 unless something blows my mind. Like, I enjoyed Soul Raiders. I'm back in this game. I'm interested in getting the game and seeing where this delivers. And it's a very unique experience in terms of what it's trying to do. But also, the prologue campaign we had, while doing an amazing job guiding us through the game, did not do an amazing job giving me a feel for the level of replayability you might have. In fact, I would argue that the prologue, if anything, made me worry about the replayability, because it's a very guided path. There's a few different pathways you can choose just to give you that feeling of, I could go here, but it's very limited in the actual depth or change it gives. So I was very intrigued by what Soul Raiders are doing, but I really needed to see more. Now, I talked about this already in a past video, but I've seen they had a guided session for reviewers or previewers or whatever, but they kind of showed us the full arcing story path and the way it goes, and any individual hero will roughly see 20% of the campaign as they go through any one of those arcs, which means if you're playing a 2-player game, for instance, even if you went completely separate directions, you'd see only 40% of the campaign, and it's more likely you'll actually end up crossing and weaving paths, so maybe you'll see 30% of the campaign in a single run with a 2-player game. Obviously, the more players you have, the more that can go up, but then that means you have to be paying attention to what everyone else is doing. Overall, I walked away being fairly confident of the game's replayability and actual degree of choice and immersion as you dive down these pathways. That said, that's me making a judgment call based on playing the game and seeing what their plans are for the game, not on me actually playing the full, arcs. From there, we have 190k for alternative locations. We have more alternative locations, just more cards, and these cards are big cards. They're the big cards that go on your table. We have 265k new content, a new Soul Raiders unlocked. Now, they don't recommend it as a 5-player game. They're saying maybe you could, but it's not really balanced as such. But yeah, it's going to be over here. So we have a new Soul Raider, but it adds to the replayability aspect. If you're diving back in to see more content, well, you'll see more content with more heroes this time. We have new action cards, we have new alternative locations, and that's where we are currently. This will go up even further. I mean, where are we right now? We are currently at 320,000 with 5 days to go. I can see this hitting close to 400,000. I don't think it'll cross 400,000. I think maybe a 380 is probably some of the ranges this will go. This is very unique and a regular reminder that this is a Kickstarter exclusive game. If you want this game, this is the only time you can get it, other than the secondhand market and or potential future Kickstarters. That is going to be Soul Raiders. And the last update is going to be Bantam West. Bantam West, which I talked about 2 weeks ago. I went over the game. Short version, this is going to be a sandbox adventure. This is going to be a game where you're playing as a cowboy as you navigate around the board and level up in different ways, trying to do all these different things to gain notoriety in the game. There's a ton of different ways you can actually go ahead and gain points. You can try mining, you can sell, you can hunt down animals, mount their heads on the bar, you can attack enemies. A ton of different things you can do in this game to gain points. It is very much a sandbox adventure. Now, I believe there will be another gameplay coming, a full gameplay with Jesse from Quackalope, Austin from Ivy Games. Speaking of which, there already is a gameplay from Austin from Ivy Games. I'll throw a link to that down below. But they did an online playthrough where he had a chance to play it. I know he really enjoyed it. But overall, that's what Bantam West is. Now, where I left off 2 weeks ago, as I said, that I am intrigued by, I like the game, but I don't know about the value proposition. The value aspect of the game coming in at $97 and with no real clear statement about their retail plans at the time. It's like, yeah, a great game, go ahead and get it, but I can't guarantee that it won't show up at retail for $65, a year and, 2 months after it delivers, or 2 months before it delivers. These days you never really know. So I wasn't confident of the value, and the Kickstarter exclusives they had at the time were very, very minimal. Now, since then, they have released a full statement. So let's go ahead and read that full statement. I believe it was yesterday's update. So looking over here, we have, if we scroll down, again, more scrolling, Kickstarter exclusivity announcement. We come to a decision after long talks. We're officially announcing this version of the game is Kickstarter exclusive. Even if we do go to retail years from now, it will not have all the niceties that we've unlocked with the Kickstarter stretch goals, marble dice, silkscreen wooden resources, etc., etc., etc. They're all, and then it talks about the various Kickstarter exclusives. So basically, and there's more updates, there's more comments in the actual comment section. I've scrolled through all the comments, and there's more content there. As a basic heads up, it seems like they have no plans to go to retail, but they're not really closing off that door either. They talked about, in various comments, they've talked about how they might be selling to retailers who back the campaign through this Kickstarter, as is typical, but they have no real plans for retail availability. And if it does go to retail, which could happen, especially with the game doing fairly well in Kickstarter, if it does go to retail, they will not be doing the same version and quality of the components. So they're doing one of those, Mission Catastrophe things, where this version of the game is Kickstarter exclusive. There may or may not be another version of the game that is, dialed down in order to make it retail friendly, which makes sense. I have a hard time seeing the level of quality that this game brings to the table. I have a hard time seeing that being the end result in a retail game. It's fairly rare, so overall it makes sense. But in case you were wondering, yes, this is going to be Kickstarter exclusive. Now, so how does that affect the value? It's a good game. It's a very good game. The $97 for what you're getting over here, I think it'll do just fine holding its value. I'm mostly confident in that. There's always a range of who really knows, and with its biggest competitor being Western Legends, which is a cheaper game with less components going on in it, at least the base game to base game, there's less going on in Western Legends. Once you throw in an expansion for Western Legends, it already starts to get a little closer to the mix, but then the price point is more equitable again. Overall, I think Bantam West will do fine holding its value, or at least somewhere close. Maybe you'll lose $5-10 in shipping, but I think it should do fine, especially if it doesn't go to retail at all. If Kickstarter is the only way to get your copy, then almost for sure. I'm talking about even if it does go to retail, I think this should hold its value depending on what level of differences we see between retail and Kickstarter. Moving on, we have Tranquility, the Ascent. This is going to be the first of the new projects, and I missed this one like 4 times. I'm pretty sure people put in the comments that I should cover this one, and I completely missed it. So by the time you watch this, you have like an hour left to go. So I'm sorry for that. I mean, late pledges abound left, right, and center in the universe, so we'll see how that goes. Give me a second here. But yes, Tranquility, the Ascent. Tranquility the Ascent is going to be the follow-up to Tranquility, a game that is decently rated, that seems to be... so let's go into Tranquility the Ascent. This is going to be a cooperative 1 to 4 player, 1 to 5 player game where you're trying to ascend the mountain. It's a little bit of a puzzle thing. You're trying to try to cooperate, following the restrictions at play to slowly ascend up the mountain, because there's a whole bunch of different restrictions. You can't place different types of terrain next to each other. Not touching. Touching is fine, but next to each other on the same row, you can't have the same types of terrain. Then there's all these numeric restrictions of you have to always discard the difference between the numbers of the things. And then you have always the numbers that can only go in certain rows. So a 1 can only go on the first row, a 2 can go on row 1 or 2, a 3 can go on 1, 2, or 3, etc. So as you move up the mountain, the number that you play can, the top number, I'm saying this wrong, the number you play has to go on the level of the mountain that it matches or lower. So for example, a 8, 9, or 10 can go on any row, versus a 1 or 2 can only go on rows 1 or 2. So you're playing all these different restrictions as you play down cards to try to ultimately make your way all the way to the summit. It's a cooperative game where you're trying to just figure out the puzzle and figure out how you can make that work. Overall, it sounds fun. It sounds completely up my alley. We have a few mini expansions to go ahead and mix up the gameplay experience, giving you a little more depth or nuance as you play through it. And that's basically Tranquility the Ascent, which I should have covered a while ago and am only covering now. And they have a playmat, by the way. They have a playmat. Now, it's a paper playmat, to be very clear. Okay, so this is currently saying it's a paper playmat. That is a big deal. If you saw a playmat and you're like, boom, I'm all in, paper playmats are not always everyone's jam. That said, what they're doing is they have the unique folding style to the playmat. I don't know what's unique about it. It's a folding piece of paper, but they are trying to put on the reverse side. They did not guarantee it, but they're trying to put on the reverse side a reverse playmat that will match your Tranquility original game. The games are, have overlaps and similarity, but they're not, in the same universe. They're different games, completely different games, but you'll have that as well if you back the original Tranquility or purchased it in retail. Which brings us to the should you back it, should you not aspect of this conversation. For Tranquility the Ascent, the short version is it comes down to general retail availability. If you look at the original Tranquility, the Kickstarter versus the retail price is the way to go. Absolutely. That said, it's not readily or easily available at the moment. So what's the retail availability? It's hard to say. Miniature Market has a price point on the game, but you can't buy it at Miniature Market, and everywhere else that I'm looking at seems to be minimal or limited retail availability for the original Tranquility. So assuming the same, what you're looking at over here, with the pros and cons in this table over here, are if you back Tranquility the Ascent, you get Tranquility Ascent. If you wait till retail, you might get it cheaper, but you might have to wait for in-between print runs. Goes into that whole FOMO unknown category. This is not one that's really holding its value. Once you factor in the price of the game plus shipping that you pay and then trying to sell it off, you will lose money on this game if you try to sell it down the road. You might lose a few bucks, but you're going to lose something on the game. Versus if you wait till retail, you'll get it cheaper if you get it not between print runs. So overall, it comes down to whether you value more the few bucks or whether you value the guaranteed availability of the game. Either way, which one you go, I'm probably backing this one. I haven't fully decided. I think I am. This type of gameplay generally does appeal to me. It's the kind of fun light thing that I enjoy doing together with my wife, and just playing the game, but just in a more thematic aspect of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Probably backing this one, but I think it will be available cheaper at retail if you catch it when it's actually available. Moving on, we have Beyond the Rift, a Perdition's Mouth card game. This is going to be from the company that brought you, Perdition's Mouth, the original Perdition's Rift. Perdition's Rift? The Petition's Mouth. Petition's Mouth. I'm just losing my mind here. They've done a whole bunch of different games. Their last game was actually a totally different one. Let's see what we have over here. Their last game was going to be, Grey Eminence. I think I missed Grey Eminence. But Mayshow and Orkney Saga, I covered that one. But they have Petition's Mouth over here. They have Petition's Mouth, Cannibal's Howl. They have a whole bunch of Petition's Mouth content for their game. And this is bringing you a different game. It's in the same universe, but it's a different game. It's a card game. It's not an expansion to the original. It is a separate, totally cooperative adventure card game. Continues the saga, but very different actual game past that. As far as, the game itself, so they have a preview for One Stop Co-op Shop. Overall, this looks like a fun card game. As far as should you back it, should you not, their games in general have not held their value well on the secondhand market. If you look at the secondhand market, then they tend to lose their value by a decent chunk. The price point over here for the pledge levels is going to be $35, gets you into Beyond the Rift. A Lonesome Game is $59, where you get the Beyond the Rift plus a Mayshow Orkney Saga. And then Petition's Mouth gives you, Beyond the Rift and Petition's Mouth revised edition of the game. So you're getting including the original Petition's Mouth and plus, well, the revised edition Petition's Mouth, as well as Beyond the Rift in one bundle over there. And a few other things you can get, a few other bundles you can get, the Lands of Zanzir, all their games, stuff like that. So yeah, if you're comparing it to the secondhand market, overall their games do not hold their value. They tend to take a bit of a hit. Not a horrific hit, but you tend to take a bit of a hit if trying to sell in the secondhand market. In terms of retail to Kickstarter, they do a fairly good job of giving you a good price on the Kickstarter. Once you factor in shipping, it's roughly equitable, so it's not like you're getting a good deal, but you're getting a reasonable price on the Kickstarter. You're not overpaying for the Kickstarter. If that holds true for Beyond the Rift as well, then it ultimately comes down to whether you want the game. Your options are going to be retail, secondhand market, or the Kickstarter. Kickstarter is going to be, well, I mean, but given the price point, especially if you're getting just the base game alone, just the $35 base game, once you factor in shipping for the secondhand market versus here, you can wait. You'll probably save something, but you will have to hunt it down and see. They're not frequently available. So similar to other games we've covered today and in the past, it's not that this is a good back, but if you really want the game, it might be the easiest or fastest way to guarantee that you get a copy as opposed to trying to hunt one down to save $10. Moving on, we have Pulp Invasion x2, the second expansion for Pulp Invasion. So, Pulp Invasion, using, pulp artwork, whatever it is going to be giving you a solo or a 1 to 2 player experience, rated best as solo on Board Game Geek, and they already have the Pulp Invasion x1 expansion. Now they're bringing you the x2 expansion, just bringing you more content for the game. They have a few pledge levels over here. They have the Captain, where you'll get a big box, the box of Pulp Invasion x2. They have the extensions, where you can get the expansion and both expansions 1 and 2. And then we have the landing team, where you can get the base game, expansions 1 and 2, basically all the stuff combined for the game. Factor in shipping, which will range depending where you are, but if in the US, for instance, getting the landing team, it's going to cost you €10 shipping to get all of that. So overall, should you back it, should you not? Short version, again, similar to what we've said till now, although possibly arguably a little better. This one has very low retail availability in general. Pulp Invasion, I've seen I think no retail availability. I'm sure it exists somewhere, but I haven't seen it readily available. In terms of the secondhand market, this is one where you will almost certainly lose something, but it depends on, again, when you can find it, when you cannot, when you're selling it, all of that. In terms of buying the game Kickstarter versus not Kickstarter, if you look, for instance, let's take a look at Pulp Invasion. The original Pulp Invasion on their site right now is €20 plus shipping. It's going to cost you roughly €28 total to get the game. Looking over here, it's going to cost you, compared to the other pledges, you're paying an additional €17 plus an additional €6 shipping, so you're paying an additional €23 to get the base game on Kickstarter as opposed to their website. So overall, the price points on Kickstarter compared to getting it on the website are the way to go. You're getting a slightly better deal here, and it is the way to go in my opinion if you're looking at picking up this game at all, because your options are either their website for slightly more money later, or alternatively, and that's with factoring shipping and everything, so the website for slightly more money later, or alternatively the secondhand market where you can try to hunt them down and find them, and getting the base game is already hard enough. There's not a lot of copies available. Getting the base game and expansions is going to be even harder by the very nature of the fact that many people purchasing the expansions, like for instance, looking over here, we have 230 backers getting the base game and everything, and that's out of 1,089 backers, which means a fifth of the people backing this expansion don't already have the base game. So factor that in. Hunting those down is going to be much harder on the secondhand market, especially if you want the expansions. So overall, my recommendation would be, if you're looking for the base game and expansions, maybe the secondhand market first, maybe, up to you, I don't know. If you're looking for the expansions, I would definitely recommend getting it on the Kickstarter, because hunting down the secondhand market is definitely going to be harder for all of that later. Not impossible, but harder. Moving on, we have Chronicles of Drunagor, Age of a Darkness Apocalypse. This is one that I already covered the full, Kickstarter and I showed you back at video. I'll mostly be covering the updates over here. So, Chronicles of Drunagor, high-level notes is going to be, this is a game that, they did like 1.2 million day one. It's kind of been stumbling along since then. That's going to be a combination of a secondary campaign that has all the people flooding in. The original backers are hyped. They're excited. They drop in day one. People who didn't know about the campaign the first time round, they've been hearing and seeing all the social media posts and trying to hunt down copies. They all show up day one to get the game. And then as the project goes along, especially combined with the fact that they had, if an early bird notification or whatever it was, it means that you'll have less and less people backing it as time goes on. Overall, coming in at 1.4 right now with 4 days left. I'm guessing it ends somewhere close to 1.7, 1.8. Now, they did just reveal all the full optional buys and everything, and to be fair, I should note that the real total is 1.584 down here, because one of the updates we're going to talk about today is the easy pay thing they're going with. Before we do, let's take a step back. Short version of my full Should You Back It video is Chronicles of Drunagor Apocalypse is bringing you more content for the already well-loved Chronicles of Drunagor base game. I have played the Apocalypse expansion. I have this gameplay on Crackle's channel. There's a review over on mine. We've played the new content for the game, and overall, it's solid improvements to the original base game, which was already fine. It's going to be giving you more inserts, more content, much more storytelling and stuff like that. Almost everything they're doing as far as changing the game is a step in the right direction, so I'm happy about that there. That said, you can get a lot of those changes in the original game as well, because things like the narrative changes they're making, they're actually releasing as an upgrade pack if you can either get it as part of larger pledges or you can pay separately to get that. But a lot of extra content, basically making your original base game more narratively driven, more narratively focused, and just tons of upgrade options in this game, from the amount of heroes you have, from the pathways you can take, from the classes, tons and tons and tons of ways you can actually level up and enjoy and just diversify your heroes in this game for Chronicles of Drunagor. As far as the should you back it, should you not, the very short should you back it or not is not going to change that much today, but we'll talk about it. The very short version is this is a game that will hold its value just fine. The original game did just fine holding its value, more than just fine. It's a game that was selling for twice its price at different points. In some cases, I saw it even more than twice its price. It's a game that people loved and then other people wanted to hunt down. That's why a campaign that did like 300,000 in the first go round hit 1.2 million on day one, and it looks like we're going to close at past 1.8 with that easy pay. We might cross 2 million, which is a solid jump forward for a campaign that it's a reprint plus expansion, so you're going to have both of those, but just lots of content for this game. Which brings us to the two main updates for today's video. The first is going to be that they released all the all-in pledges. So if you scroll down the sidebar over here, let's go ahead and hide my screen. If you scroll down the sidebar over here, you can see that all the pledges over here, and there are easy pay options for each of those as well. So let's go ahead and click to one of those so we can go ahead and see that. And going through this is going to have an easy pay option, and then a all-in Age of Darkness for $339, and then an easy pay option for also $339, where you pay $99 upfront on GameFound, and then 5 payments of $48 through Chronicles of Drunagor, through CGE's own easy pay system. So you have to be comfortable with trying their own new system, but they're effectively offering you installment plans to be able to get another game without having to shell out, $500 right now, because that highest pledge, the all-in for everything, they have a bunch of pledges, we'll go through them in a second, is going to be $569 plus shipping. That might be a lot of, that is a lot of money to commit to. That's a lot of money, and for some people, you don't want to or can't put it down all at once, but if you're spreading it out, maybe you can justify it, that's fine, that goes towards your monthly budget for each month, all those things, and so that gives you the option to do it that way if you want to split it out. So they have an easy pay system. You have to obviously be willing to engage in that, but I don't see a reason not to. I mean, it's not like I don't have a lack of trust in CGE. I don't know, it's up to you. I see no reason. If I were inclined to break it up into monthly payments, I would have no personal problem going through that system. And on each pledge level, they guide you through exactly what to do, so you're completely fine over there. Pledge share at GameFound, go down here, save your pledge ID number. They go through the steps, so it's a little bit of an instruction manual to follow. Then again, if you can't read through one page of text to get here, you shouldn't be backing this game because there's more than one page of instructions to actually play it. So it's fairly easy to go through as you go through that. Let's cover the pledge levels. Pledge levels, they released the gameplay all-ins and the all-ins and all the all-ins of all the stuff. Previously until now, we had the original all-ins of the base game. So if you go here, we had these ones over here. We had the all-in for Age of Darkness for $339. Since then, they've released the all-in for the Apocalypse for $269. I love how in each thing they tell you the savings off MSRP, which I don't care about, and the savings of $28 or whatever it is from buying all these items in the pledge separately. From there, we have the Reprint all-in Age of Darkness, which is going to be the all-in, no, what am I missing here? We have all-in Age of Darkness for $339. Then we have, what am I missing? Something's wrong here. This is, something's off here. I have to look at this one after. This one looks a little bit wrong here because it's showing you $99. Oh, because it's $99 over there. Got it. Okay. We have the gameplay all-in, which is giving you this gameplay all-in for basically $410. Is going to be giving you all the gameplay from both campaigns. And then we have the Master All-In, which is going to be giving you all the gameplay plus extras. So things like, the giant extra set of the 4 bosses or anything else extra that is not essential. Like, I don't even know. I'd have to look through what's in there. It looks like we're missing the extra trays, stuff like that. Extra stuff that's not gameplay related, but is quality of life related. And that's going to be $569. Overall, these are all going to hold the value just fine. If you click through, again, you'll see the savings, giving you a savings of $108.99 from buying separate items on this pledge. Obviously, when you're comparing that discount, don't just compare it to the separate items, priceless, but compared to the smaller pledge levels that you would otherwise be buying. Overall, yeah, it'll hold its value, and it's a good game. If it may or may not be for you, check out reviews for that. There's a lot of content on the original game, and there's a few different people who have, like King of Average, myself, a few bunch of people have covered the actual prototype as well for Apocalypse, so there's more than enough information to decide if this is a game for you or not. And that's going to be Chronicles of Drunagor, Age of Apocalypse, which brings us to Oros. Oros, be an all-powerful demigod in an ever-shifting world. I believe Crackle has gameplay on his channel. I don't know. He has something on his channel, I know that. For myself, yeah, this is a game that I have played. I have reviewed this one. This is a really solid game. In fact, technically, we had a live stream of this game that never actually happened. We played it online. We were having so many technical issues that never actually got live streamed, but we ended up playing it online anyway. So yeah, I've dived into this game multiple times at 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players. I have not enjoyed it at 2 players because I don't like autonomas. The autonomy here is very easy, to be very, very clear. Like, ridiculously easy. I just don't like autonomous in games. I would be willing to play at 2 players, but for me, 3 or 4 is going to be the sweet spot. 4 adds a level of interaction that's nice. 3 has a little bit less downtime, so both of those are going to be solid play counts to play the game, in my opinion, and 1 to 2 if you don't mind autonomas. Again, if you don't mind autonomas, these were very easy to actually play with. I just really, really am averse to autonomas. Either way, I'm being distracted by my actual opinion of the game. Let's talk about the Kickstarter. This is their first creative Kickstarter. Incredible job by them. It's a one-man team just doing absolutely everything for the game. And they're going to cross, they're at $150,000 so far. I assume they'll cross $200,000. There are going to be exclusive options here in terms of the premium pledge level options. Let's go into all of that. So, Oros is a game where you're basically going to be merging tiles on this landscape. You're going to be merging and clashing tiles together to form mountains. And then on those mountains, you're going to be building shrines. And those shrines are going to help you generate points to upgrade your abilities, and those abilities will let you do all those things I just talked about, but better, more efficiently. You'll be sliding more land across the board. You'll be able to move and combine different size land masses. You'll be able to move more people, move them further, do all these kinds of different things. Maybe you can start shifting mountains that otherwise weren't able to be shifted. There's all these different things you're trying to do in the game, and there's these abilities on your board that it's basically, the way he puts it, it's developed asymmetry. The game's going to start off, you're all on the exact same level playing field, and then as you do things in the game, you will develop your powers, your abilities, the areas that you are stronger and better than other players. Also, being mindful of your score. You're going to be upgrading different things as well throughout the game that will be improving your score, the way you're going to score points in this game, because you can be the best at all the abilities and just not have enough points to actually win. In the meantime, you're also going to be ascending up this ziggurat over here, and as you ascend, that's going to give you points there, also triggering the end game. So all these things you're doing, the building shrines, the developing abilities, smashing land masses together, really well done in terms of the game, just left, right, and center. Which brings us to the pledge level, should you back at all of that stuff. So for $50, you're going to be getting the standard edition of Oros, MSRP of $55. I wouldn't get that. We have the all unlocked standard edition growth incentives. His growth incentives is his word for stretch goals. But overall, the growth, unless you, I can't see a real reason to get the standard edition at all, because you can get this game at retail. This game will almost certainly be at retail. It's being done incredibly well as far as what's going on with it. He has said there's no official retail plans. I think in the FAQ, let's go to the FAQ for a second. Let's see. The FAQ said, where this game shipped is always going to retail. I hope so, but I don't have any retail deals lined up yet, so only the future will tell. So basically, the reason to go with the standard edition instead of the deluxe edition over here would be if you really want the game, you're prepared to overpay for it if it goes to retail. If it doesn't go to retail, well, you're not really overpaying because you can't compare it to retail. But that $50 price on a $55 MSRP, once you factor in shipping, that is not good. That's not good. And it's a small box, by the way. It's chock full of components, but it's chock full of components the way any sort of a Raiders of the North Sea style box is. A small box chock full of components, but the difference is the MSRP is much, much higher on this one. Now, the game is quality. Left, right, and center is quality. I don't think you'll have any regrets. I think $50 is an easy price to pay for what this game is doing and how well it's doing it. Except, of course, if you compare it to the fact that it will be cheaper at retail if it goes to retail, which I imagine it will based on how well this game is. It's a testament to how good the game is. I think it's... I'm not recommending the standard edition pledge because I think the game is good. Because I think it's so good that it'll almost certainly be at retail. But as far as what I do recommend is the collector's edition of Oros, which is going to be an extra $25 on an MSRP of $80. But this one, let's go through the collector's edition over here. Let's go through what we have over here. Scroll down. So, Collector's Edition over here. Collector's Edition Pledge is Kickstarter exclusive. That's where that $5 discount on the MSRP doesn't matter at all. Like, okay, great. It's still $75 off an MSRP of $80, but if it's Kickstarter exclusive, the MSRP is a meaningless statement. So, at this point, I just care about, do I think this is worth it and will it hold its value? So, what does the Collector's Edition come with? It comes with Spot UV in the box. It's nice. It's okay. It comes with a land tile expansion. 24 additional land tiles. Let's go ahead and look at the updates to show you what that means over there. But all the land tiles in Oros come together to form a giant puzzle of the game. So if you scroll over here, all the land tiles form a giant puzzle, which is great, by the way. This is genuinely an activity that I will now give my kids. I'll be like, here's Oros. Go ahead and figure out if you can figure out the puzzle. They'll do it. They'll have fun with it. So that's going to be something that you can do as well, matching up all those tiles to form a giant puzzle. And the Collector's Edition is going to give you 24 additional land tiles as well. Now, the Collector's Edition, by the way, in general, there's nothing exclusive as far as gameplay differences. It's all premium differences. We have the upgrade to wooden sacred sites. Those sacred sites, the little cardboard chits, are going to be wooden sacred sites, which from having played this game, it's a nice solid component upgrade. The various ziggurat pieces are going to be the little gods who rise in the ziggurat are going to be wooden pieces, and then one of the most important ones as well is going to be the custom insert over here. This custom insert, just from having played the game, assuming this custom insert looks anything like what it looks like in the picture, this is a really solid custom insert for the game. This looks perfect. Like having a little slot of two sections of tiles, you set up on the table, you pull them from those. This is going to minimize your setup time, your teardown time. This is going to make the game much more accessible. This alone, if nothing else, is worth the $25 in my opinion for this game. Again, with the caveat that beautiful looking pictures are not a final thing. The custom insert could be horrifically bad plastic and just ripping and tearing. It could be horrific. But based on what I'm looking at, I would go for the Collector's Edition based on this alone. But initially, we have more stuff coming Friday, August 6th. So we'll have more stuff. I just don't know what that more stuff is. But overall, and also they had something else. What else they had? They had Spot UV. Didn't they have Spot UV on all the tiles? What am I missing here? I recall, no, sorry, that's going to be, oh, here, let's go through the Kickstarter exclusive. So, the Kickstarter, the stretch goals options over here are as follows. Keep in mind, anything not Kickstarter exclusive is going to be in all the pledge levels. So, let's go through it. We have funded, we have follower pieces, adding silk screen to all the follower pieces. We have the board upgrade for all the pieces. We have the foresight tiles. Again, this is everything for all the pieces. And then the Kickstarter exclusive ones are going to be for that premium Collector's Edition pledge. So, we have add Spot UV to all player mats, add demigod tokens to the Collector's pledge. We have add linen to all autonomous cards for everything, the goals and achievements, and then we had add Spot UV to all land tiles in the Collector's Edition. Now again, I don't really care about Spot UV on boxes. To me, boxes get slotted on the shelf and I don't really see them much. It's nice, I'm just not willing to pay that much for it. Versus Spot UV on all the land tiles, that's cool. That's going to make your table look very shimmery and cool, and I'm fine with that. Next goal is going to be a score pad, and then we have other things. We have Spot UV to the map, and we have double-layered player mats. Ooh, double-layered player mats in Collector's Edition. Ooh, I'm excited. That's going to be another reason. Again, overall, go for the Collector's Edition. Collector's Edition will hold its value just fine. Oros is a very good game. It's a very good game that everyone who has played it that I know of has really enjoyed this game. Combine that with a Collector's Edition that is giving you a ton of component upgrades from inserts to double layered to its Spots UV to who knows what else they're going to be adding to the game to wooden tokens. Overall, the Collector's Edition I can easily recommend. I'm just surprised it's an MSRP of $80. I can easily see that MSRP being higher, although again, fake imaginary numbers as long as it's Kickstarter only. Moving on to Divinus. This video is going to cross an hour, isn't it? I'm looking at the time and I'm realizing we're 42 minutes in. It's going to cross an hour because we have like 7 things left to go. Anyways, I'm glad I have timestamps. So, Divinus by Lucky Duck Games, 192,000 euros, 10 days to left. This one's doing about as well as I expected. Now, what do I mean by that? Divinus is going to be a legacy-style game from Lucky Duck Games. Now, when I first heard of this game, I was like, this is going to do tremendously well because it's going to be gods and epic and all these things, and it is to a degree, but it's also a lighter-style gameplay, which typically most games have struggled with having a higher price point on lighter-style gameplay, especially if it's a legacy game with lighter-style gameplay, because you're like, yes, sure, there's an eternal mode, but I'm paying a lot of money for a game that I'm going to play, 12 to 20 times, depending on how much content you got for the game. Base game expansions, all that stuff. But Divinus is going to be let's take a step back. I have 2 gameplays on the channel. I have a review on the channel. I talk about the game extensively. Divinus, and I have a full should you back it video in case you want to skip this. I'm going to be just driving straight to the point. Divinus is a game where they have it's basically going to be a tile laying game where you grab tiles from a central board, you lay them down into your own little Carcassonne style board that's going to be 4x4 grid. That you're doing that to accomplish different objectives, different goals, and different scenario goals. You're trying to make the gods happy and accomplish all these things to ultimately eventually win across 12 scenarios in the base game. More content for other stuff as well. The game is going to develop past that, so the depth of the game is hard to read based off of the 2 plays I've had so far. The base game alone was equivalent to playing Carcassonne. Level 2 already, with adding more stuff, was Carcassonne with an expansion or 2. As you add more and more things to the game, I don't know how heavy this game does or doesn't get. It seems to be that it's going to be a lighter game. They're not doing anything to correct the notion. They're like, yeah, it's a lighter game. That's fine. And I have no problem with lighter games, to be very clear. My hesitancy with Divinus, and in my review, my hesitancy and my should you back it, has nothing to do with me enjoying the game. I'm getting the game. I like the game. I'm looking forward to finishing this 12 game arc. We're 14, 15 games into my city. We're really enjoying it, and I'm liking it. I don't mind a lighter legacy game. My hesitancy is the price point. My city is a $25, $35 game, and Divinus, by the time you buy everything, could be like $150. Granted, at that point, you're getting much more content than my city, but proportionately, I don't know if you are. So Divinus is a game that I am happy to dive into, and I'm happy to encourage it, but I'm encouraging it with the notion that I think it is potentially overpriced compared to other equitable things you can buy. It's not a question of whether you can get it cheaper, because it's a legacy game. Your options are retail or Kickstarter, not really the used market unless you find somebody who bought it, never really played it, and has enough regrets that they're selling it to you for $20 cheaper. If you want to hold out for that, by all means. So it's really a question of Kickstarter versus retail. And to that end, it's hard to say because Lucky Duck does have a spotty track record. Lucky Duck games, many of their things do become much cheaper later, and they're selling their bundled pledges on their website of something from the Viking game, Vikings Gone Wild. You can get a giant bundled pledge of all their content for half the price people paid on Kickstarter. And then you have other things that don't. So it does come down to how well this game is rated and how, this end up as a bargain-based basement thing. To that end, I don't believe it's going to see the level of discounting we saw on something like Vikings Gone Wild or Fruit thingy. What's the fruit game? I don't know, whatever it is. Anyways, I don't think it's going to be seeing that level of discounting. But is it unreasonable to believe that it's possible you'll get this game for cheaper down the road? I don't think it's unreasonable at all. I would encourage that if you are getting it, get the stuff with the Lucky Duck exclusive tag, get the pledge levels that give you as much Lucky Duck exclusive content as possible. That's not to say it's totally exclusive. It will be, Lucky Duck exclusive means it'll be on their website or limited. It will not be in general retail availability. But nonetheless, I think that is your best bet if you are getting it on the Kickstarter. Overall, I do recommend getting Divinus at some point and in some way. The only question I really have is make sure you're willing to pay for it, and then the question is retail or Kickstarter. Lastly, before we move on from this, because again, I have a full should you back it, I'm just trying to condense the information here. Past that, they did release a recent update on the Eternal mode. The Eternal mode is something that you can play even midway through the campaign. It's going to utilize various elements and mechanics that are unlocked across the course of the Legacy game. I'm not going to go into what or which to whatever to avoid spoilers, plus I don't know it all, but it's going to basically be utilizing some of the mechanics you have across the Legacy game, but not necessarily all the mechanics. Mechanics that only make sense in a Legacy genre, they will be removing those in the full Eternal mode. The Eternal mode is going to be using a combination of a random assortment of quests and gods and all these things that you've unlocked throughout the course of the game, so in theory it's giving you fully randomized experiences, utilizing as much content as possible that you've unlocked across your experience and or unlocked across the expansions and myths and all these other things you have gotten as you've played Divinus. So it's giving you this kind of, it's not like a step after the Legacy mode, it's not like you've finished your Legacy game and you have this magical custom thing that's all yours. It will be partially custom and partially yours in a way that some things you've done throughout the game are going to be permanent and make your Legacy game, your Eternal mode to go through. But it's much more focused on being a kind of side standalone version that, yes, will also be developed as you add things to your board and all of that, which means we are now ready to go to Architects of the West Kingdom Works of Wonder. Give me a second. Okay, we got like 6 left to go, 7 left to go, too many to go, too many because we have 48 minutes in. Architects of the West Kingdom Works of Wonder by Garphill Games. This is going to be another expansion for Architects of the West Kingdom. The only thing I really need to show you here is going to be this thing over here. Let's see if we can find it. I love them. They're really awesome in terms of doing this. Where did they do it? They had, here we go, Kickstarter or retail. Works of Wonder, the collector's box and playmat will be coming to retail in various languages. There are no exclusive items in this Kickstarter campaign. If you prefer to wait for the items to become available in retail, we are 100% okay with that. Please just choose whichever option works best for you. We don't want anyone to feel pressured into backing this campaign in fears that they might miss out on some exclusive content. This paragraph right here brings to mind the whole Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition FAQ that they had. So if you remember that, Ares Expedition, there are a lot of games out there that go to Kickstarter and they don't give you a real reason to back it past, well, let's break it down. They don't give you a financial reason to back it. There are a lot of games that go on Kickstarter and they're like, here's the Kickstarter. Because there's a few reasons people back Kickstarters. One is straight up FOMO, making a bad decision because they're uncertain about the future. 2 is going to be the price is better. 3 is going to be you're going to get it earlier. And 4 is going to be that you are supporting the creator. Those, I would argue, are the 4 main reasons. 3 that are rational decisions, and 1 that's just based off the fear of the unknown. What if it's not available? What if it is more expensive? What if anything? So there's going to be the reasons to back a Kickstarter. And there's many reasons. I have backed Kickstarters for any of those 4 reasons at different points. Granted, supporting the creator is usually lower on my list for, well, I'll save another video for that one. But basically, I believe if you're going to support the creator, I believe there's a concept of a win-win at play. I don't believe you should just inherently just support the creator, because they're making more money on the margins too. Longer conversation. But past that, in general, sometimes games are popular enough or franchises are popular enough that you don't have to worry about any of that. You can just say, hey, it's on Kickstarter, the price is what it is, back it or don't, and people will still back it because it's popular enough that you'll have enough of a subset of people that are like, I'm not going to wait till retail, I'm just going to get it on Kickstarter, even if I am paying $10 more, and sure, I'm getting it a month early, so things not even earlier at all. And I think that Garphill Games put out a statement here that is incredibly... They're owning that. They're like, yeah, it is what it is. It's going to be available at retail. It's all good. Like, there's nothing exclusive here. We're not forcing you or pressing you into anything. Do what's best for you. We 100% support that. It's all good. It is the same issue that we had with Ares Expedition, yet with Ares Expedition, they put out a slightly dismissive version of that exact message, same end result, just one almost makes me want to back the game because of how transparent and direct they're being. The other makes me not want to back the game. So that's just a conversation about customer service and phrasing and messaging in general. Overall, though, the sad reality is when we get to the should you back it or not segment, generally, Garphill Games for me have been fairly consistent every time I've covered one of their Kickstarters. Their games are almost always available, like, to a large degree after the fact. They have a very popular line, and the price point is generally cheaper to get it later. Waiting and getting this at retail from your local big box store online with free shipping on a $100 order is almost always the cheaper way to go for any Garphill games. If you want it earlier, or supporting the creator, those are great reasons to go ahead and back it, and depending on which region you're from or where you are, you might not be paying that much more. It's really just a quick, honestly, for Works of Wonder, all you have to do is compare the price point of this Kickstarter to the price point of the last expansion from wherever you would get it, wherever international, whatever it is, and that's the price point you're looking at. Their MSRPs are fairly consistent. Their base games are going to be X, their expansions are going to be Y. Just compare it to any other Garphill Games expansion for this line of games. That is the price point you're looking at and whether it makes sense to you or not. For the most part, at least for domestic US, get it cheaper at retail. If you want it for international, it's often a different story. I know I often get comments from backers saying, oh yeah, for me internationally, it made more sense to get it. Great. I'm all for supporting Garphill Games, and I'm all for supporting the transparency and well-craftedness of that message. As far as should you back it or should you not, ultimately it does depend on that retail aspect or no. Moving on, we have Thunder Rolls. Thunder Rolls coming to you from I know the designer, from Arkham Horror, Rich Alanius. Rich Alanius, designer of Arkham Horror, is bringing you Thunder Rolls, otherwise known as Las Vegas, the racing game, which I haven't seen anyone say, which I'm surprised because it's basically Las Vegas, the racing game. So, Thunder Rolls from Zero Games, they brought you Helionox, The Last Sunset or something like that as their previous games, but Thunder Rolls is going to be giving you a dice rolling racing game. You're going to roll dice and assign them to abilities. You're going to have different abilities, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to have those numbers. You're going to group your dice and then assign them to a thing, then re-roll and group and assign, re-roll, group and assign. If this is sounding familiar, it's because you've played Las Vegas and that's basically the gameplay. Not that I have a problem with that. I love Las Vegas, and the idea of applying it to a racing genre game, I don't know if it'll be good, but it seems like it'll be good. I can totally see myself enjoying this game. What I don't enjoy quite as much is the price point. And we'll be talking about MSRPs again. Remember how we talked about Oros had an $80 MSRP on a fictional thing that isn't going to retail, so the $88 MSRP is, first of all, too low, and secondly, just completely fictional? Here we have the reverse issue. We have a $49 game, $49 price point for this game, for the driver pledge, which is going to be giving you $90 MSRP, get a copy of the game, $90 MSRP. Okay, they're calling it a $90 MSRP, and you're going to get it for 45% off the MSRP. And to be fair, this game will not be sold through distribution, Kickstarter, cons, and direct sales only. So they're calling it a $90 MSRP on something that isn't going to retail, and let's show you the contents. This is the contents of the game. That's not a $90 MSRP. I know we're seeing freight prices rising left, right, and center. I know we're going to see changes to the board game landscape. This is not a $90 MSRP game unless those cars are made out of like die-cast metal trimmed with gold. I don't know what's going on here. This is not a $90 MSRP game. If you know any games, you can look at any other game. The contents of this game is simply it's not a $90 MSRP game. But you can call it what you want when it's not going to retail anyway. I don't love that. I love Las Vegas. I think Las Vegas is a great game. Las Vegas is a racing game I can easily recommend. Paying $49 plus $15 shipping for this game for when you could otherwise get Las Vegas, similar to Divinus before it, my first recommendation is going to be get Las Vegas, see if you like that. I think it's great. If you have Las Vegas and you like the gameplay and you're willing to pay like $65 for this game, by all means do so. For myself, I'll be keeping an eye on this one. I imagine it'll be cheaper on the secondhand market because we don't have a ton of backers. That's the hard part. 232 backers means the secondhand market will be limited on this game. So unfortunately, despite me thinking that the price is kind of gouging you on this one and that it's a lot of money for Las Vegas, I think that if you really want that gameplay, this might be the only way to realistically get it, past hoping you get a copy in the secondhand market, and with 232 backers, that's just not that common. It'll happen, but it's only so many times it'll happen, and there might be too many of you waiting for that secondhand copy. The art on that I don't care for. I just like the idea of a Las Vegas style racing game, and Richard Launius, I do respect his design work in general, so I assume there's a good game here. But as far as the price point is where I falter on Thunder Rolls. Moving on, we have Get to the Checkpoint. Get to that checkpoint! Which, by the way, was originally called Get to the Chopper. I don't know if they got like a notification before the Kickstarter to cease and desist and not use that for copyright reasons, or if somebody told them, hey, unless you want to avoid if you want to avoid problems proactively, then rename it now before you get to cease and desist. So somewhere along the lines, the name of this game changed, and now it's Get to the Checkpoint. Which makes sense. I'm cool with that. Get to the Checkpoint. This is going to be from Sam Milham, who has a bunch of games under his belt, and this by far is the one that I am most interested in from all of them. Because this has a genre of game that I typically enjoy. It's a solo game that involves dice rolling, assigning different things, and trying to min-max your way through a bit of a journey as not min-max is probably the wrong word, but you're trying to puzzle your way through a journey as you roll dice and rescue your people and get all the way to that checkpoint, or that chopper, or whatever it is. So overall, the genre of game, I've always enjoyed the art of his games. I was tempted by his last one, Silver Road Grove. I think that was his best performing one to date, and this one has me even more tempted because it's more likely to see play. The cute artwork, the light little puzzle style game, all those things have me intrigued in Get to the Checkpoint. And then again, the part where I falter once again is going to the price point, coming in at $56 or 56 Australian dollars, 42 euros, with 20 hours to go to get in on this one over here. 20 hours to go means that by the time you watch this, unfortunately, it's just too late to get the day 2 grunt extended. So which means you're looking at the $44, only an extra $2, and of course we have 20 people who back that now, even though they shouldn't. Either way, we'll address that later. But yeah, Get to the Checkpoint is going to be giving you a $42, $44 plus shipping version of a solo dice game when you can get Under Falling Skies for less than that. And I recommend Under Falling Skies first. I easily recommend getting Under Falling Skies. If you already have Under Falling Skies, if you already have other puzzly solo dice games, then yeah, Get to the Checkpoint does look fun. Will it hold its value? Almost certainly not. There's also bundle pledges over here where you can look through. You can get everything from all his previous games. Overall, their games are well designed, but their games have beautiful artwork, their games have decent but not amazing ratings, and I don't know if Get to the Checkpoint is going to be some special exception. I would say that I'm interested in this game, I'm not confident it's going to be great, which is why I'm recommending other games over this one, at least initially. You do have the chance to play it on Tabletopia, so if you want to check that out, that does give you that confidence aspect. So overall, Get to the Checkpoint falls in the category of, if you want it, get it. In terms of picking up later, it's very hard to get their games for that much cheaper. The games do go to retail with limited availability and not a ton of wide availability. I don't think it'll hold its value. Get it or don't get it, but I don't think it'll hold its value. Moving on, we have Earthborne Rangers. Earthborne Rangers, 16 days to go, $190,000 raised, 1,800 backers. This is one that I'm super interested in, but also, again, price point. These prices are killing us over here. Now, again, freight shipping is the whole freight crisis and all that stuff is a thing. The fact that we're seeing higher prices, well, actually in this case, higher prices are a big part of it because they're approaching this game from a stance of of eco-sustainability. So they're sourcing everything, they're making it more locally. So the prices here are higher for a different reason. But we are seeing a lot of fairly expensive versions of games that were not as expensive. Kickstarter is becoming more and more expensive, which might be pricing people out of backing things. It's pricing me out of a few of these, I can tell you that much. But Earthborne Rangers is going to be a post-apocalyptic world that is not really a post-apocalyptic world because it's all lush and nature and all these things. But you're going to draft, it's more of an adventure game than a, hey, look, here's how we win game. It's a game where you're going to be going through the experience, trying to craft the narrative as you go through it. You're going to be choosing your ranger and developing their stats and their personalities, their companions, their items, all that stuff, and then starting to go through this adventure as you choose different pathways to go down, and then go through this card game where you just encounter different things and make different choices. It's going to have Adam and Brady Sadler are going to be involved in it, which is awesome, because if anyone knows cards games, they definitely know card games. And then as far as pledge levels, we have 2 pledge levels here. We have the $80 Earthborne Rangers core set and the $150 gameplay all-in. So those are going to be the pledge levels we have over here. And the FAQ, by the way, spends 10 of their 12 questions talking about the extra cards. So we're going to focus on that to get that out of the way quickly. The $80 core set, which is $20 off MSRP, so focus on that, 80 and 20 off MSRP, is going to be giving you, 500 cards, 70 tokens, rulebook, campaign guide, which is, again, a lot of money. That's $80 for 500 cards. You know what's not $80 for 500 cards? Dominion. Dominion is not $80 for 500 cards. Now, again, you can't compare everything. You can't compare the fact that, Dominion is much cheaper, but Dominion is a very different style of game. Dominion has a wider retail availability. Dominion is not being crafted with eco-sustainable supplies. It's not apples to apples, but it is a reference point that I will 100% bring up. So that's going to be Dominion and what we have over there. The $150 pledge for the gameplay all-in is going to be giving you the Ranger card doubler. This is a big deal that I'm going to focus on very quickly because the FAQ spends a lot of time focusing on it. This is only stuff, these are extra cards. You do not need them for the game. What are they useful for? They're useful for if you've crafted your ranger and then player 2 is crafting their ranger and they would love to have some of the cards that player 1 used. Think of it as having an LCG with multiple core sets. It's not that you need more than one core set, but it will give you more character creation options if you do so, and that's going to be the ranger card doubler. You do not need it, so the gameplay all-in is focusing on it as a... And they also adjust solo play. If you're playing it solo, then it's only useful if you're playing it two-handed with multiple characters, and or if you like to have different decks and you don't like to take them apart, which might be relevant. You may want the Ranger card doubler. I'm just explaining it's not any extra content at all. Past that, we're going to have the Legacy of the Access of Campaign expansion. We're going to have the Ranger playmat, the Valley playmat, the World of Earthborne art and lorebook. Everything being eco-sustainable, boxes all break down, being produced locally so you have less shipping and all those things. Those things are going to contribute to the higher price on this game. So, should you back it, should you not? I'm skeptical of this one. This is a hard one. So first of all, I haven't seen anything about Kickstarter exclusivity, but I think it is Kickstarter exclusive. And from a stance of at least the current format of the game, I have a hard time seeing this price point on this style of game with the degree of eco-sustainability trying to be incorporated here. I have a hard time seeing this picked up for wide retail availability. The price point is just too high. It does fall into the category of there's not going to be those extra 3 levels of margin available for the distributor to be involved, for the game store to be involved. This is a direct Kickstarter to backer, product that I think only works in that environment with the higher price points we'll see. And you as a backer are seeing some of those higher price points, but I can't imagine the margins are going to be as good as a typical retail product here. So I'm skeptical that this will go to retail, at least in its current form. I could be wrong here. This is something that's not my area of expertise at all. Something that's designed completely eco-friendly. I just have a harder time seeing this having the margins available to support the extra 2 levels of a distributor and a game store in the picture. So it's a guess, but that's my hesitancy. And if it does go to retail, then the $80 price point, $20 off retail, is not going to be enough to cut it. Once you factor in the shipping, you'll be paying more for it on Kickstarter than you will at retail. So if it goes to retail, I think it's a bad price, but I don't think it's going to retail, or at least if it is, I don't think it's going to be going at that $100 MSRP for this game. I have a hard time seeing it being picked up there. So Earthborne Rangers falls into a category where I'm looking at as a kind of okay, great, if I back it, can I get my money back if it's not for me? And again, I'm skeptical. I admire them for the stance they're taking on the eco-friendly approach and what they're doing there. At the same time, from a practical sense, when I'm looking at 15 games to back and people and all of them have different price points, different components, different everything, it's a hard sell to say that when I get this game and turn around and try to sell it, that you'll be able to find people who are willing to pay that premium. It does come down to the availability of the game and how good the game is. And on those counts, I'm not saying it's a bad game at all. I have no knowledge whatsoever whether it's a good or a bad game, but I'm saying I have no confidence that it's a great game. I have no confidence in that that, and there's a higher price point attached to it. So overall, it's not that Earthborne Rangers falls in the category of being a good back or not back. It's I am not confident in the back at all. It could well hold its value. I'm not willing to say it is. I'm not willing to say it isn't. It really comes down to how good the game is and whether people are willing to pay that premium to get it down the road. So not a safe back, but not necessarily a bad back. Moving on, we have Lumeria War of the Gods. Lumeria War of the Gods is going to be another of these two-player, head-to-head, customized team battlers. We've seen a lot of these in recent times. A whole bunch of these have been on Kickstarter recently. I've covered 2 of them as well. They seem to be very present, and that's often because they're kind of it's an established genre, like skirmish games, which we're actually going to talk about in a second. Like skirmish games, it's an established genre that people know, easy to jump into. Now, that said, there's going to be a whole bunch of factions over here in this game. You can see an example over here as we scroll down, just faction after faction after faction. This going to be taking, 2 players head to head, faction after faction, attacking each other with your customized whatever, and they're taking an interesting approach to the Kickstarter in the sense that you can customize your box. You choose how many factions you're buying, and then they're going to customize the box for you and load up those factions for you. Step 2, choose your factions, and they're just going to slot them into the box for you. It's a very cool approach. I imagine it adds to the cost to pick and pack this game, every single box being a custom thing. I'm not sure how this goes. I'm impressed that they're doing that. I think it has to add to the actual cost of production by having your own customized version. I mean, think about the configurations here. The amount of configurations you can have for any number of different SKUs. That I don't know what their plans are, but I'm happy they're going for it. But yeah, so what are the options here? For €25, you get the newcomer. You get 2 factions of your choice. For €33, you're going to get 4 factions. For €40, you get 6 factions. For €75, you're going to get all unlocked. Choose this person, match the box set with all available unlocked factions. €75, $90 for this game. Should you back it, should you not, is going to be fairly simple on this one. Most of these card games do not hold their value after the fact. I can't remember the last time I've seen one that really did. Maybe Codex. Was Codex even on Kickstarter? I don't even remember. It might not have been on Kickstarter. These head-to-head card games where you have just a ton of factions, I've enjoyed them. I've played a bunch of them. I've enjoyed them. They rarely hold their value after the fact. It's a hard sell to get people to say, oh, this one is worth paying attention to. This one is amazing. They all tend to have decent ratings, not amazing ratings, and then they tend to, fade away from us knowing them. So if you want the game, go ahead and back it. Your options are going to be probably the Kickstarter or secondhand market, where if you're patient, I imagine you'll be able to pick it up, but we don't have a ton of backers. We have 294 backers. That's going to be a very low secondhand market on the game. So I'm a little skeptical on this one. I'm also skeptical on being able to have a custom queue line with 294 backers. I don't know where they're making this or how they're making this. It's not something I'm familiar with, and I'm a little skeptical on that. And then we go to the skirmish game, which I touched upon briefly, which is going to be Limbo Eternal War 1.5. Limbo Eternal War with 723 backers, 15 days to go. This is going to be this is rated at 8.4 on Board Game Geek, and this is going to be the 1.5 version. They already had the original Limbo Eternal War, which the original Kickstarter, if you look at it, was kind of pitched as half a miniatures Kickstarter and half a board game Kickstarter. Now, there's not a lot of people on Board Game Geek who have rated this game. It has 30 ratings. It has 6 people who want it marked as trading or wanting. There's 40 people who marked it as owned. There's a small audience of people around this. So that 8.4 rating, while being excellent, is also based on 40 people, so take it with a grain of salt. You kind of need more of an audience around that. That said, I do know the King of Averages really enjoyed this game, and he's very into miniatures games, so they take that. I would argue I count that far more than the 8.4 when you only have 40 people behind it. But overall, it has supposedly gorgeous miniatures. It's giving you a skirmish game, a typical skirmish game, and this is where I find, similar to two-player head-to-head card games, we also have two-player head-to-head skirmish games, which they tend to operate a little differently. If you look at the ratings on two-player head-to-head skirmish games, they tend to have much higher ratings, even when they are smaller batches, 40 ratings, 100 ratings, whatever it is, they tend to have higher ratings, like 8.4, 8.3, 8.6, at least until they start creeping up to having 2,000 ratings, at which point, at a certain point, you have people dragging that rating down. That's just the way it works. That's why BGG has that aggregate rating system. But past that, trying to see what makes one skirmish game different than another, it's going to have army building and then attacking each other and skirmish and dice and all those things. Trying to see what any one does differently. I find when on a surface level, I tend to look at all of them and I'm like, they all look good. Until I really play them, it's hard to really pinpoint what makes one special versus another. So I don't have any, clever insights on Limbo Eternal War, past the fact that it's a Kickstarter, and it has, options over here. Let's talk about the Should You Back It. That I could talk about. Should You Back is going to have a few options. We're going to start with a $35 upgrade kit if you have the original Kickstarter. This gives you an upgrade kit, giving you new components and new cards, larger game boards, new tokens, and a revamped rulebook. Past that, for $95, we have the Saga of Noaden expansion, and this one I'm confused by. We have 10 10 backers in this one. Then we have the next backer level is $110, which gives you the Saga of Noadin plus the 1.5 upgrade kit, which has me wondering, who are the 10 people who want the expansion but not the upgrade kit? Because, I mean, listen, I guess you don't need the upgrade kit, but I would pay that extra $15 to get the upgrade kit. So if you're one of those 10 people and you're backing the Saga of Noadin expansion and not the upgrade kit and you're watching this video, let me know why. I'm always curious why people do certain things, so I'm curious. Either way, $190 is going to give you the core game 1.5. That's a good price point because the original, and sorry, $140. These are all US dollar, Australian dollars to US dollars. So everything I just said about price point should be taken back. That 35 is really 26, that 95 is really 70, and that 110 is really 81. But for $140, we have the core game, and that's a good price point difference because they basically priced it that getting it now is going to cost roughly the same as buying the original plus the upgrade pack now. So basically, older backers aren't like, oh, come on, I should have just waited till now, which I'm fine if they did, but it's always nice to be able to do that. Then for $195, we have the core game 1.5 plus the Saga of Noadin, and then for $269, we have the Void, and for $294, we have Oblivion. So, should you back it, should you not? A short version is as far as getting the game, this is probably your cheapest entry point to getting the game. If you look at the price point on the secondhand market selling this, the other Kickstarter did do fairly well. If you bought the original Kickstarter and sold it on the secondhand market, you, for the most part, got most of your money back, if not all of it. That said, it's with a small sample size, so take it with a grain of salt. I think this is a reasonable pledge where if you pledge for this game, you will be able to get your money back. Because of that small sample size, it might mean you're waiting a little longer than you otherwise would want to. It might mean you're holding on to it and just not able to find a buyer. Again, we're operating with a very small sample size of sales here, so I think it'll hold its value, but I'm also not confident because I like to see more than like 2 or 3 sales before I say, yeah, it'll hold its value on that one. And that's going to be a wrap. That's going to be everything for this week. We'll have more stuff coming next week, but that's basically it. Now we're in 10 minutes. That is possibly the longest to back or not to back we've had until now. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and as always, have a good one. So, next week, we have Lords of Allah, we have Aridia, The Paths We Dare Tread, we have Lands of Galzir, Legend Academy, Excavation Earth, Bug Cancel Backyardia, Green Hell, Almanac, and Noble War. No, Noble War we don't have yet. We have those like 7 or 8, plus possibly more, which is why I think we will have a to-back or not-to-back next week. Also, I haven't done this in a few weeks, so this is my regular reminder that if you're not a Patreon already, I'm about to go film the Patreon video, so whenever I have a to-back or not-to-back, following that, I have a Patreon exclusive video, $5 tier or above, which basically means $5 buys you like 4 exclusive videos a month, 4 or 5 depending on the month. Not a bad price. But overall, you're going to get an unfair and unbalanced video covering all these Kickstarters where I try to convince you not to back as many as I possibly can while being a little bit fair, but mostly unfair and unbalanced, hence the name. The point of the video is to look for all the reasons not to back something and to try to focus as little as possible on the reasons to back something, hence the name Unfair and Unbalanced. It's not meant to be a balanced approach, which the reason it's hidden behind a $5 Patreon wall is 2 reasons. One, because I'd like to have a reason to incentivize people to be Patreons past general support. 2, I mean, I appreciate every single Patreon, but the number of patrons I had doubled when I started doing this series, so some people are in it to support the content creators, which is great. Other people would like to see something in return, which is reasonable. So that's, I mean, this whole channel is about value, right? So it's not crazy for people to want something in return. And then number 2 is because I don't want a video like that floating around the internets without people understanding exactly what it is. The goal of the video is to be as brutal as possible and unfairly brutal. So I don't want that just showing up in people's recommended feed without them understanding that it's very much unfair and not in any way fair. But anyways, I'm going to go film that. If you're not already a $5 Patreon, I do recommend jumping in on that one. I can tell you that I back fewer Kickstarters because of that series, and I know I get consistent comments from my patrons telling me that they are not backing things because of that series. So it should save you money, even though it will cost you $5 a month. Until next time, I'm Alex, and have a good one.